So we're going to start that May the 10th. We're putting 50, testing my memory here, 50 450 watt panels on the football club with 48 kilowatt hours of battery. Yes, I'm right? Yep, okay. And we'll interlink that with the generator, and we'll be putting 2 air conditioners in also the football club, so that in a time of need that everyone needs to go somewhere, they'll have somewhere to go and they'll still have power and they'll still be comfortable. On the netball club, we're going to put 7.5 kilowatts worth of end-phase solar and a Tesla Powerwall, so that when the CFA use that as a stage down area, they'll have somewhere to go. And that's part of the community project. I'm involved because I live in Glenburn. Only moved 7 months ago. No, probably 8 months ago. I moved down from South Gippsland, where Tom's from, and wanted to be a part of the community. So this is what this is where I'm here.
Okay, thanks. Awesome. Thanks, Grant. I'm not here to try and sell you solar today, just purely to be informative as much as we can, walk you through the different kinds, the rebates available, battery storage, electric vehicle charging. If anyone has any questions at any stage, feel free to let me know and I can try and answer them the best I can. So to start with, obviously panels is a fairly important choice. Understanding where they're manufactured, probably 90% of panels are manufactured in China, which is not an issue. Maybe 10 years ago it was a big problem, but they've increased in leaps and bounds, and every panel in Australia has to pass rigorous standards and it has to be made for the Australian environment. They can't sell it here.
But the non-Chinese ones, are they better?
That was my next point. Yes, absolutely. There's plenty of Chinese products available in the market. They're probably your middle ground, but there's plenty of other products above and beyond that, like LG, SunPower, RACV, that are manufactured across Singapore, North Korea, that have a longer warranty. You pay a little bit more for them, but they probably produce more power for longer. Difference in warranties being probably 15 versus 25-year warranty. So in regard to warranty, there's 2 warranties on panels. There's a product warranty and a performance warranty. Pretty much every panel in Australia has a performance warranty of 25 years, which means if the panel was to last 25 years, they'll honour that. They'll rate its performance basically, versus the product warranty, which is if the panel actually fails, they'll replace it within that period of time.
How long has that been here?
The warranty period?
Yeah, so as you said, it's been a growth thing.
Yep.
And at what stage did that guarantee come in?
The performance warranty, it's probably just something that's happened in the last 4 years, that they've all started selling a performance warranty as a sales tool, whether the product warranty is 10 years or 25 years. As soon as someone hears 25-year warranty, it sounds a lot better than the product warranty. So it's confusing, I suppose. As far as I'm concerned, the performance warranty doesn't mean much. It'd be pretty hard pressed in 25 years to prove that your panels didn't perform as well as they were supposed to, versus a product warranty that will tell you otherwise. 2 main kinds of inverters. We've got a standard string inverter, which is obviously a series of panels in a row all connected. So if we have a shaded house, for example, if one panel is shaded, that whole string is then shaded, and that's what leads us to potentially look at microinverters, which is effectively an inverter under each panel, so they all perform independently. Microinverters are probably 10 to 15% more expensive than a string inverter, and they also have panel level monitoring, so you have a little bit more visibility, but for most roofs, a standard string inverter will work just as well.
Does it cost much to convert and go from one to the other?
What's that, sorry?
If you've got a string inverter at the moment,
Yes.
does it cost a lot to change it?
You would have to replace the whole system. It's not just something that you retrofit necessarily. Yeah. So the standard string inverter.
I'd ask.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, the standard string inverter is obviously the inverter on the wall with some cables coming down.
I'll cut the tree out. It's all right.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, probably a cheaper solution.
But you can put there are DC string optimizers,
Yeah.
which will simulate the same role, so you can actually singly deploy or multiple deploy them on strings where there is shading, and you can retrofit them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
No expensive.
Probably $80-ish a panel.
Oh.
Yeah, so not particularly expensive.
Can we get a copy of this?
Absolutely, yeah.
Email to us?
More than happy to do that, yeah, sure.
Saves them to take photos.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I can do that.
We could put it on our website.
Oh, yeah, well, yep, that's what.
Yep, sure,
I think
we'll
that's
pass it through, yeah, most definitely. The third component is monitoring platform. That's probably something that's relatively new in the solar space that not a lot of people currently have. And I've got an image of what that might look like here. Effectively, there's production monitoring and consumption monitoring. So production is obviously what happens on the inverter. So that's basically what this curve represents. This is just a day in January this year. You can see as the sun rises, this is an all north facing array. And then this blue line represents consumption monitoring. So the reason that this is valuable is you can see how and when your power is being consumed. And obviously if we try and consume as much power inside that production curve, we're going to save more money, effectively, unless you're on a 66 cents feed-in tariff, which I think someone in here was, which obviously that's the complete opposite, where you don't want to use any of that power because you generate revenue from doing that, but obviously that's completely changed now. So yeah, self-consumption is probably the key to trying to save money, which is trying to run your appliances during daylight hours, which this app then allows you to have that visibility of when that's happening. So dishwasher, washing machine, split system if you have one, preferentially where possible run during the day. Obviously it's not possible to always cook dinner at lunchtime or anything drastic, but the more that you can proactively change that, the more money you will save. The feed-in tariff, there's been a fair bit of talk in the market at the moment about potentially charging people to export power, which isn't something that's going to happen today or tomorrow or even next year. It's probably like a 10-year plan. But what it is more charging people for feeding back into the grid is only one part of the story.
It's a
The
bit
biggest,
cheeky.
pardon?
It's a bit cheeky.
It is cheeky, but there's a reason for it. So the long-term plan is to have a smart grid where everyone's solar and battery plays a part in normalising demand. When if you have a lot of power being produced on your roof and the local area requires that power, they might pay you handsomely for that export back to the grid to support the network. Vice versa, if everyone isn't home and there's lots of solar being produced, they don't want you to send any power back to the grid. So all of the inverters that we're installing today have the capability further down the line to be able to dynamically control that export, so it will sell power at times of profit, but also ramp down your production so you don't export any power to save money. So it's a part of a bigger picture.
They're talking about in South Australia turning off people's solar.
Yes.
Does that mean they're turning off their ability to export or their ability to produce?
Export is the preference. However, some of the older inverters that aren't capable of export control, they're just simply turning them off. When they are turning them off, it might happen 4 times a year.
Okay.
It's very minimal, and it's purely to ease the strain on the grid. Effectively, there's a base load that always has to be produced from the power stations, and solar is this messy sort of jump that's up the top that has a lot of peaks and troughs because of the clouds coming over effectively. And when there's too much power being produced, they can't just ramp down a 100-ton generator. They have to be able to take that top off, and solar's that first thing that they do.
How do I switch off the solar?
They can do it remotely through your smart meter. Not currently in Victoria. It is something that they're moving towards. They can do it in South Australia currently. They can disrupt the frequency and it turns inverters in a localised area off if they don't have that smart functionality. Yeah, love to. So the feed-in tariff currently now the minimum set at 10.2 cents. You may be able to get a higher feed-in tariff from another retailer. As of July the 1st, the decision's already been made that feed-in tariff's dropping to 6.7 cents per kilowatt hour.
Seriously?
Yes.
When's the premium tariff ending?
That ends in November 2024.
Yeah.
So there's actually no point really having it.
Solar.
No.
Or the feed-in tariff.
The feed-in tariff.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, excess solar is causing more issues to the grid than helping it. It's not like it is sending free power to the grid that they can use, it's causing more issues. So that feed-in tariff will probably continue to drop off to nothing eventually, but it's starting to turn the argument around on, do we start to look at a battery to make sure that we're independent from that grid? Because then we can store that excess power, we're not losing it, and then we're saving that 30 cents that we would have otherwise wasted, effectively. So that's just part of the process.
So there's no real, in longer term, there's no real need to have it linked to the grid.
You still need to have the grid as a backup, per se.
Especially in the age.
To become independent from the grid, you need to have 3 days of battery storage redundancy and probably a backup generator as well. So yeah, if everyone wanted to go off grid, that'd be great. But realistically, you're looking at $35,000 to $50,000 in battery storage to be able to achieve
Okay.
100% independence.
So I'm with a retailer who tells me, I've never really checked it out, that they only export to the grid, they follow the spot price.
Yep.
When the spot price is up, they take it out of my battery and export it to the grid. They don't
Absolutely.
store it in my battery.
Yep.
Have you got a reposit?
For what?
A reposit? No.
I had one removed surgically, it was very painful.
Yeah.
No, it's a system that allows you to do that control. That's how they control it.
That is the early stages of this smart grid control, and it's probably called, eventually it's going to be called a virtual power plant. Where when the spot price of electricity could be $14,000 per megawatt hour, they might pay you a $14 feed-in tariff for that power that you're producing. And when it drops into a negative, when they don't want your power, it won't export power to the grid. So that's an early form of that, basically.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to work on, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's trying to maximise the benefit for you. Yeah, who's your energy retailer?
Members Energy?
Never heard of it, to be honest. Yeah.
They've got another name.
Diamond? No?
Dodgy Joe's Services?
Yeah.
No, seriously. Members Energy, just.
Yep. Okay.
Never heard of it.
Evergen.
Evergen. I'll have to do some research when I get home by the sound of it. There's a few key points that I would recommend when looking for a solar company. Number one, a brand you can trust. So if someone you know's installed solar and had a good experience, it's probably worthwhile seeing what they have to say. Ideally, someone that employs local people, supporting the community. It seems like there's a pretty good sense of community in Yale, and I think that speaks true to most of your values. The CEC, or the Clean Energy Council of Australia, they're the governing body that sets all of the rules and the code of conduct for retailers in Australia and Victoria. And ideally you want to see that top sticker, basically, that they are an approved solar retailer, so that they partake in that program. You can also go to the Clean Energy Council website and search for any retailer. They've got a list of everyone in Australia if you were unsure whether they're doing the right thing or not, basically. As well as accredited installers, which Grant White is one of. So they have to undergo a fairly rigorous training course, I suppose, and they've got to pass a test that they have the knowledge and the skills to be able to install a system to code and regulation. And there's a couple of requirements that must be shown on the quote in order to comply with these rules. The biggest one being the expected generation and an estimated savings, as well as the warranty terms, conditions, and an itemised list of all the products. If that's missing from the quote, then they're likely not part of this program, or there's something missing, more than likely. Probably also worth looking at online reviews. Some of them are good, some of them are bad, but as a whole you'll see a lot of people have a good experience or a lot of people have a bad experience based on those reviews. In terms of the rebates that are currently available now, the first one is the federal government rebate, which is STCs. So that's based on the number of panels that you have. The more panels you have, the larger that rebate is. It's basically a carbon offset. Whatever your panels are going to produce over the 15 years, they give you a credit for that when you install the system. The Solar Victoria rebate, which is currently $1,850, continues to drop every year until the year 2030. So it was $2,225, then became $1,888. It's now $1,850. As of June 30, that's going to drop again. By how much? Not sure. There's also an optional interest-free loan that you can choose to take on as well, which is to that same value of the $1,850. It's purely an interest-free loan through the state government that you pay back interest-free over 4 years. It's just off the upfront cost. There's 3 eligibility requirements in order to get this rebate. Number one is you don't have any existing solar on the property that wasn't installed post November 2009. Have to be the principal place of residence, so you have to live there. The property has to be worth less than $3 million, and the combined taxable income of the household must be less than $180,000 per year.
There's one other, isn't there? You have to be connected to the grid.
You do have to be connected to the grid, yes.
So when it got the value,
Yep.
the $3 million,
Yep.
is that the house, value of the house?
Property value of the property according to the rates notice, so the capital improved value must be less than
Not a
3
big
million.
farm, is it, just 5 acres?
Whatever it
No,
says on the rates notice.
I mean, so that'll, a lot of farmers will be ineligible.
Correct.
Oh, that's-
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, Solar Victoria is one of those government-run businesses that did consult us in regards to what the requirement should be and then didn't listen to anything we said, basically. So they make the rules, and if you don't fall into that category, you're ineligible for a rebate.
What if
Is that
you're a
the same
landlord?
Pardon?
What if you're a landlord?
Sorry, that's a good point. There is a landlord rebate available, and that it will be based on the income of your tenants. Yep.
But the federal one isn't dependent on the $3
Correct.
million.
Sorry, federal rebate. Everybody gets that rebate. We include it in every quote that you see. There's an itemised line. And there's currently a Solar Victoria battery rebate available at the moment, which is $4,174. So it's quite a bit more significant than the other rebates currently available. The requirements are exactly the same in terms of property value and income, but you have to have at least 5 kilowatts of panels on your roof to qualify for this battery rebate.
You can't have both. Is that
You
right?
cannot have both, that is correct. You either get the Solar Victoria rebate or the battery rebate. If you've claimed the Solar Victoria rebate before, that makes you ineligible for the battery rebate, unfortunately.
Can you add a battery if you've got an existing system, Tom?
Yes, you can, provided that it's more than 5 kilowatts in panel capacity.
What's the standard battery that you use for household?
I mean, it's how long's a piece of string question really, but average household probably install a Tesla Powerwall, which would be 13.5 kilowatt hours of storage, probably $15,000 to $16,000 installed. So take your $4,000 off that, 10 to 12 ish.
That's about what you'd normally use.
Yep.
What if you moved house, so you had the solar rebate
Yep.
before, and then you go to a house which has got solar.
Provided it's your
provided.
principal place of residence and the address on your license matches the rates notice, you'll be eligible for that rebate.
Okay, alright, so, okay, alright.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if you had it somewhere else.
Nope, it does not. Landlord rebate, they can claim it up to 2 houses per year as well as their own house if they want to. So you can get 3 rebates if you're a landlord for a couple of other houses as well. A battery can provide you with not just increased cost savings, but obviously increased self-consumption, load shifting, which means if there is any excess produced during the day in that curve, we can obviously take that chunk of power and consume it overnight. It also provides us with backup power as well. So if the grid goes down or you're in a remote area, it can provide you with ongoing power. It can also mimic the grid so that if you have a solar system, it can continue to run alongside, effectively off-grid, until that battery is depleted or the grid comes back on and then it returns to its normal self. It can also monitor the solar as well as the battery. So if your current system doesn't currently have any monitoring and you decide to put on a battery, it will include monitoring provided there's Wi-Fi available to connect that connection.
Can you go through the DC and AC couple? So
Sure, yep.
people understand export limit.
Yeah.
How far off is self-sufficiency for individual homes?
It depends how much money people are willing to pay.
Yeah.
Really, funding is going to be the thing that holds that back.
So it's realistic now if you've got the money to set
Absolutely,
it up.
it is. Yeah, most definitely.
Mm.
There's a couple of constraints in regards to network because we live in the AusNet region. If it's a single phase, we can only put maximum 10 kilowatts inverter capacity on per phase. So if we have a 5 kilowatt inverter already with 6.6 kilowatts of panels, we can add a Tesla Powerwall which has 5 kilowatts inverter capacity inside it. That'd be the maximum amount. If you have an 8 kilowatt inverter on a single phase, you're unable to add any battery storage with the rules that are currently in place.
So how's that gonna work at the rec?
DC coupled batteries, so they're behind the inverter.
Correct. So there's 2 different kinds of batteries.
Which will-
One, like the Tesla Powerwall, is what I call a smart battery, which effectively has the battery and the inverter built into one, and that converts DC to AC, so it's usable in the home. That inverter has capacity, you just can't add solar to the Tesla Powerwall. It has to be alongside another inverter that converts the DC on the roof to AC. The alternative to that is a hybrid inverter, which does 2 roles. It converts the DC power from the panels on the roof to usable power, It also charges the batteries directly via DC current, which is like your dumb battery in your car. So if we use that sort of battery, we can have 10 kilowatts inverter capacity and as much battery storage as we like, and it can go back and forwards and provide power to your home. Does that make sense? Yep, getting a few nods, a few maybe nods.
So,
I think it's
so,
a DC AC, right?
Yep.
so AusNet
Or DEF, I think.
class a Tesla and a 5 kilowatt inverter as 10 kilowatts. So 2 inverters, but if you do a DC coupled battery, which comes off the inverter, you're allowed 10 kilowatts of solar inverter and as much battery as you like, because that's already been controlled by that inverter shooting the power out. It can't go anywhere. But they believe that at some stage Tesla will release an update which will allow that battery to export and they'll lose total control of it. Does that make sense? So it's all about controlling the grid and AusNet being able to control what goes in and out to keep the grid stable. Did that help at all? Not really.
Maybe.
Probably confused you more.
Well, it gets down to the basics of what battery design it is.
Yes.
Yes.
So there's a whole lot of other questions.
Correct.
So I'm happy to just listen for the moment.
Sure.
Instead of controlling everybody's solar in Victoria, why don't they put in a decent battery pack in the line system?
Yep.
So when we're producing power, it goes into that battery to sell later at night.
It's effectively what they've done in South Australia. Like
Yeah.
they've put a big battery in place. The government put the bill basically, and then obviously everyone that pays power will also pay some part of that.
Instead of wasting the
Yeah.
solar power that's
Yeah.
already paid for on the roof,
Absolutely.
put into a battery and
The biggest
Oh,
challenge is the electrical infrastructure that's already in place that's 30 or
'Cause it's
40 years
centrally
old.
old.
Correct, and it's not centralised. Like you've got farmers down a swirl line, there might be 20 people on that line. They can't physically send all that power back or the transformer will blow up. So the physical infrastructure limits that. Obviously in more populated areas that is a reality, but the cost is astronomical on that scale. It just goes up and up and up and up. It probably is a reality in the next couple of years, but who knows when that will happen. I think the government really has to foot the bill for that one, for that to happen. Part of the future, electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. There's an example that we sell. There's obviously a myriad of different options.
You could put yours next to Tesla's out the back of the supermarket.
We could. Absolutely, we could. So there's some smart controls that we can put with an electric vehicle charger, that we can set it to only charge from excess solar if that's what we want, because it's going to make your power bill increase drastically. To give everyone some context, a Tesla Model S has a 100 kilowatt hour battery, the top of the line model, that drives 500 or 600 kilometers. If you drain that to zero, it's going to take 100 kilowatt hours of energy to charge that car. So to put that into context, that's probably a 30 kilowatt solar system, which most of us can't fit on our roof, just to show you how much power is actually inside that. So solar is always going to be a supplement to an electric vehicle. The reason that people are moving to electric vehicles is obviously if you have an off-peak rate and you charge your car overnight at say 20 cents per kilowatt hour, it's only $20 to charge that car versus $80 or $100 for fuel. So although your power bill will be a couple of $1,000s a month, you probably spend not a month,
Go on.
a quarter.
Oh, die.
A quarter if you had a Tesla, it's going to be far cheaper than if you're running it with petrol, servicing, tyres, everything
So
else.
I didn't realise it, but with the, I think it was Clay's husband told me that with the Tesla battery you can only you charge Tesla cars.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yes.
What about yours?
Any car.
And
It's just about the cable that goes between the two, basically. So if you have a Nissan Leaf or whatever any of the other brands are, provided you have the right cable, you can plug it in, and you can get an adapter for Tesla chargers.
yeah, carry one around with you.
Yeah.
So the future will be that you're driving around your battery storage.
Yeah.
So what the future will be, it hasn't been released yet, but it will come very soon, that you'll drive home and plug your battery in your house and your house is run by your car while charging. So that's the future. That's what we're looking at, and that's why they're going that. They're going to have that reverse charge. So you drive around, you go do all your chores, you do whatever you need to do. You charge it on solar wherever you plug. Come home, you plug your battery in. You've got your car's basically running your house.
There's a backup.
Makes the cost
Yep, as a
It'd be
complete,
Reasonable.
Correct.
You get your house
Yeah,
fixed.
you've effectively got a battery on wheels because it's more than the capacity of any battery you'd likely install at your car.
So,
So
if that's the case, you don't actually need a battery for your house,
no, you won't.
because that'll
And- but
effectively
if-
be a car.
Eventually.
But you're gonna have to buy it. There's a payoff between them both. Yeah.
Does it?
It
Buy
depends
a
where,
big battery.
Yeah.
It depends on where you live, it depends on your
Do
road,
they
if
come in
you're-
ute
it depends
varieties?
on all
if
that.
you're in
Does
a
it come in
remote
ute
area
varieties?
and you're
Huh?
gonna,
Do they come in ute varieties?
No,
No
not yet.
point having an electric car unless it's a ute.
Well,
yeah,
they're bringing,
there's a Tesla pickup coming later in this year.
Oh, I've never.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rivian
Yes, correct.
is a U.
There is.
And it looks like a ute.
It does.
Space age tank.
So,
Like a weird machine.
I've read a lot of reports about new batteries that are based on things other than lithium, but
Sure.
how many ones do you ever see are lithium? in the
Correct.
market?
Yeah, so they just haven't reached market saturation where they're affordable or on a commercial scale that we can buy. Yes.
Supercat
Yep.
batteries, and where are they up to? I looked at them 2 years ago and the guy sort of said, well, wait another 12 months until the software's sorted.
Yeah, again, they exist, but not on a commercial scale that we can all buy.
So going back to the problem that everyone's getting solar and it's buggering up the grid.
Yep.
If this idea comes out,
Mhm.
that means that it stabilises the grid because
Absolutely.
it's actually
Yes.
going to
does.
your car. Like,
It solves both problems. Yeah, absolutely. You have security for your electricity
so
supply, but
so
also
they don't
can
need
absorb
to
it.
charge us for actually supplying electricity to the grid.
Correct.
Well, that's how the battery in South Australia's made heaps of money. just
Exactly.
By grid stabilisation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of spinning up a big 100-ton generator, if there's a little bit that they can't produce, that battery just discharges instantly and covers that peak because it's all instantaneous. It's not like we know we're going to need power in an hour.
Yeah.
It's we need it now.
Yeah.
Obviously, this whole scenario probably isn't super relevant for regional Victoria for quite some time, just purely for the fact that we drive a few hundred kilometres at a time and we're going to deplete our battery. In the city, it probably makes a lot more sense where you drive your car to work, plug it in, that has a big solar system on the roof, and then you come home and that powers your house. That makes a lot more sense.
One of the biggest arguments I've heard is people saying, I can go to a petrol station, it only takes me 5 minutes to put petrol in my car.
Correct.
If I'm going into the country, how long is it going to take me to charge my car?
Absolutely.
Every time I stop.
So it's something that they're continually improving. They've got some superchargers that will charge 80% in 20 minutes. Again, it's still quite longer, quite a lot bit longer. There's a company in America that is, instead of charging batteries, they're purely changing out the pack underneath. So they've got a big bank of batteries. You drive over, drop one out, puts another one in, away you go. So that'll be comparable, but obviously the infrastructure to be able to put that in place is hugely costly. But there's more than one way to do it, I suppose. Yeah. I don't think the Tesla's necessarily going to be the final solution. It's just, they're just the first one to make it available to some people, basically. That's pretty much it from me.
So let's have a look at a scenario, it's specific to Yay or
Sure.
Alexandra.
Yep.
Yay has 2 fogs a year, one for the first half and one for the
For the whole time.
So
We'll
let's just
go to
say we
Claire
get a
first.
couple of, and we frequently get these all-day fogs.
Yep.
Is it going to generate anything during the day?
Yes, it will, because it's not just purely sunlight, but actually the UV bandwidth as well. So it's not just visible light that also produces power, but the whole spectrum of light.
So
produced by the sun.
so if you've got a fog,
Yep.
versus a sunny day.
Yep.
Actually, no, a fog versus a cloudy day.
Mhm.
Will there be much difference in generation?
They'll be comparable. Yeah, they'll be
What
comparable.
about a fog versus or cloudy versus a sunny day?
It's almost like comparing summer to winter, where summer's going to be 2 or 3 times more effective with solar than it will in winter.
Right. And earlier when you were talking about those different inverters.
Yes.
So under what circumstance would you advise putting on those individual
Microinverters.
Yeah.
I'll put my hand
Most
up. Camera.
typical example is if there's a big tree to say the northwest of the property, and that's going to be a sweeping shadow across the array. So as that sun rises and sets, if you've got a standard string inverter, as you approaching that afternoon, if 1 or 2 of those panels are shaded, that whole string is effectively taken out, Versus if you have microinverters, those first 2 panels, first 4, first 6, first 8, but the remainder of the panels still remain producing power later into the afternoon as that shower sweeps across.
So how much extra do they cost, say, in a typical house installation?
10 to 15% probably.
Well, it's not a lot.
No, it's not significant, but if you're looking at a 7 kilowatt system that's $10,000, it might be between 10 and 12.
And going back to the non-Chinese ones.
Yeah.
Are the non-Chinese ones all of similar quality, or are
There's-
they better? And
There's some good and some bad, I suppose, but mostly REC, LG,
Well, LG make these in China.
yeah, some power. They're probably the 3.
I thought LG was Singapore.
It was, but then to compete in the market,
Yeah, they've had to change
they've
their
had to change their
manufacturing.
manufacturing
Yeah.
because they can't compete because of the pricing. So they still offer a Chinese panel with a 25-year warranty.
Yeah.
Made in China. So it's the same technology, but yeah, made in China.
Is there any development in the recycling of used solar panels?
Yes, there is.
Tell us a little bit about that.
It's a really
There's a new company there.
yeah, it's really challenging to recycle the parts inside a solar panel. Obviously, the aluminium frame is really easy to knock off, but the silicon's wafered between silica, which is glass, and obviously you can break that up and melt it, but it's hugely energy intensive to do so. So they're looking at ways to try and make it better. There's a place in Adelaide that disassembles all of the used solar panels, but you have to ship them to Adelaide in order to do that. So there's a few companies that look promising, like they're going to come on board soon, but at this stage, yeah, there's not a lot available, unless the panel is still in working order, and then obviously you can repurpose it to charge a small off-grid harder caravan, etc.
Oh, sorry, the gentleman at the back's been put his hand.
My scenario is, I'm building a farmhouse. It's got power through my property.
Yep.
So I can either get a new transformer and drop down the line. So 4 metres down,
Yep.
right from the ground, is 17,000
Yep.
plus about 5,000
Trenching.
underground.
Yep.
Versus, I've sort of got quotes for 13 kVA batteries,
Mm-hmm.
7,900 watts of solar
Solar.
panels.
Yep.
And a 5 kVA inverter.
Yep.
Which was 24,000.
Yep.
So both about the same price. I guess what I would save in grid power,
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to put that money towards batteries in 10 years' time, move out equal.
Potentially, and you're paying a daily supply charge for the power that you consume every day. So it's $1.10, $1.20 every day to have the privilege.
Yeah, but that'd still work out about the same
Yep.
cost for batteries in 10 years' time.
Yep.
Did you do a load profile with that when you got quoted your batteries?
Oh, just an estimate. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
so that will only give me, even the 5 or 6 kV inverter,
Yep.
will only give you 3,000 watts of
Yep.
In backup,
output.
Yep.
correct.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's not really enough, is it, if you've got water pumps or?
No. We should take that offline, and I'll just sort of have a conversation
Yeah,
and give you a bit of a steer and
Yeah.
directions. Not pushing you away from
No,
it.
thank you.
Just
But
have to delve a bit deeper into that
Just
one.
being a bit realistic about cost and those sort of things.
Yeah.
Okay, before I answer that, I just want to bring up Chinese inverters. Don't be scared of Chinese stuff. Depends on what Chinese stuff you get. There is some fantastic Chinese inverters and Chinese panels out there that stand by their warranties. A SunGrow inverter is the only inverter that you can pay extra and get a 25-year warranty across the board. So don't just think of China and go, oh, they're all cheap. I won't swear, but rubbish. There are some really good quality Chinese. There's some real crap. I'm telling you now, there's still some crappy, and there's some crappy panels out there that has not changed. But don't think that you can't, if someone offers you a Chinese inverter, just check the company out, see that it's been there long term, check the profitability of the company, no different to the panels, and you know, you can get some reassurance in there, some really good stuff. Trina is a fantastic Chinese manufacturer. It's been about a very, very long time. stand by their warranties. I had a case where we did an install in 2013, I think we did, and the panels had faded on the back, and the back sheet started to have an earth fault. And despite the fact the warranty was very flippant in the fact that back then it wasn't 10 years or anything like that, they supported their product and sent out new panels. So, and it was a very simple process. So I don't want everyone to go China. Don't think like that.
I think it's more because
I understand what it is.
political side.
I understand that. I just
Absolutely.
yeah, I understand that, and I understand there are yeah.
Yeah.
The farmers who get their property.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, can I just ask a bit of a more global question in respect to the first time I heard of 2030A, right?
Yep.
And so how does all this link in with 2030A?
Because the 2030A went for the grant to get the guys.
Yeah, but
Maybe John can answer it because I'm.
2030A was formed out by a community consultation process in 2019, where the community was asked what projects they would like to see.
right,
In the end, there were 10 or 11 projects selected,
right.
and a microgrid was one of them.
Mhm.
And so a small committee was formed, and that committee, after said our target is 2030, so we're now called 2030A.
Right, so
So
is that only for the town or is
Well,
it for the region? Like,
For the town.
well, it's basically for the town, but we're trying to cover 3717.
yeah, well, okay. So therefore that covers me.
Well, I don't.
So how do I link into what you're doing, in other words?
Become a member.
No, but yeah, I understand what you're saying there, but I still don't know what it means to me.
Well, whether we get a microgrid,
Yeah.
because it's technically
It's a challenge.
that's a real challenge.
Yeah, I can
and
imagine.
Hallucinantly expensive
Yeah.
to achieve.
Community battery.
We may not get to that, but our idea is to become 100% renewable by 2030 or carbon neutral at least. So we're promoting solar panels and energy efficiency for
Right.
people in the area.
Because why my question is you know, I'm going to do something,
Sure.
right? And if I go and do something, and I find out in 2 years' time that 2030A of doing something which I could have fed into, which would have saved me $10,000 or whatever.
Oh, okay.
It'll be
No.
something that we can retrofit to a lot of customers. So there's a device manufactured by Mondo called Ubi, and effectively it can communicate if the microgrid was to proceed. Everyone that's in that locale could partake in that by fitting a third-party device that could then use your solar and batteries to communicate.
Right. So you understand the question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from? It's
Yeah.
not negative. I just want to.
Mm.
I want to understand.
Oh, look, we're new, so we're still finding our way.
I'm newer.
We'd love to have you as a member.
That's right.
But anything you put in will be of use.
Well,
Yes.
We hope so.
Yeah, I understood that. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sir.
I just recently got a quote from RAC Solar that you put panels and a Tesla wall battery on my property.
Sure.
And the idea was to get a electric car soon afterwards.
Yep.
From what I learned tonight, are you suggesting that I should buy the electric car and do without the power wall?
No, not necessarily. So it really depends on when and how you're going to charge your car.
Yeah.
So what the battery on the house, because we don't have bidirectional charging yet, that's something that will happen in the future.
Alright.
And so what bidirectional charging will allow you to do is obviously even if you have the power wall, they're going to work together with the
Yeah,
car. So
sure.
it's long term the
I
bidirectional
don't want to pay
charging.
for a power wall and then find out that
No,
the car
no,
of
will
course.
charge the house anyway.
Yeah. So batteries at this stage obviously save you more money than if you have without it,
Sure.
as well as give you that,
Absolutely, yeah,
that grid
absolutely.
independence. Yeah.
No, I was just
that's
wondering
still
about the
the
car
case.
component, because you're right, the car is a big battery.
It is. Yeah.
And why would I pay
Yeah,
$15,000 for power
Sure.
wall when I can buy the car now and
Yeah.
take that off the purchase price of the car, basically?
Absolutely. I guess what the battery allows you to do is capture some of that excess power produced during the day, and then you can charge the car
Yeah,
with what's
understood.
remaining
Yeah, okay.
at night when you don't have. So you're not paying for that component of power that you would have otherwise paid for.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
How far away is that possibility?
Bidirectional charging.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I've got no idea. It's really, it's something that's going to take years.
Does it take the car manufacturers to do it or something else?
Manufacturers can do it tomorrow. That's
It's
the
got to be
easy part.
legislated.
Yeah, correct.
It's got to be comfortable and legislated. It's a government decision as much as it is anything.
Yeah,
So that's the balance, isn't it?
correct.
Yeah.
Hyundai are bringing out a car sometime in the next 12 months, which will have a GPO in it.
Yeah, a PowerPoint. Yeah,
So you'll be able to hook up any of your
appliances.
appliances.
Yeah.
I'll take your washing machine with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Camping.
I mean, like, the advantage is if there is a power outage,
You can plug your phone in, plug your laptop in. Yeah, absolutely.
plug your fridge in.
Seems like a pretty easy thing to
How does
put
it have
in.
to be legislated?
It's toasted.
Just the control power going in and out.
It's not that much better, darling.
Sorry, when I looked up batteries, right, there's something like, I don't know, 30 batteries.
There's a lot.
Of all these different types of chemistry.
Sure.
Right, so you've only talked about one tonight.
Lithium.
Really?
Yep.
Is there anything else?
Not commercially available or cost
Not,
effective
not,
to
not,
sell.
no, I wouldn't recommend anything else at this stage, no.
Just, I did go to a farmer to buy something, and he set up a system, right?
Lead acid?
Which I hadn't heard of.
Lead acid?
Bromine, yes, salt bromine. Yep.
Yeah, it was no, I don't think it was lead acid.
Yeah.
You converted it from lead acid to something
Yeah.
else. Anyway, so he made me think then, when I looked it all up, there's all these different ones and all got positive and negatives, and
Sure.
one of them commercial availability
Yeah.
and cost and all the rest of it. But some of them were quite good in respect to, they had a much longer life, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They do.
cycle rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
I don't think lithium's the answer. It's just the best available in the market
Yeah, the
now.
market. Yeah.
okay.
It's going to change. Like
Yeah.
it won't be forever. It's not going to be the best battery. It's just the most readily available for us to produce in a cost-effective way today.
Just like super
But are the
capacity.
prices of batteries, because when I was on council, we did a, Dindy solar bike scheme.
Yep.
And they totally recommended most people not getting the batteries because they didn't think it was cost effective yet
Yep.
to actually do it.
Absolutely. It depends what your motivations for battery storage are. Some people want energy independence. They want to save more money. A battery will provide you to do that. It is a long-term investment. Like there's no lying about that, but provided you're intending to be in your house long-term, you will save more money with a battery. It's pretty simple.
And there are other ways to use that excess solar, like there's ways of, if you look at heat pumps and these sort of things, you can certainly get control that way. You can start pushing, turning on different things. There's other technologies out there that will allow you, other than a battery, and hot water is a perfect example of something that costs us enormous amount of money. And if you've got a heat pump that's able to switch within your solar, and as soon as you get to excess, it starts to run. It's a way of reducing. It's like having a battery without having a battery, I guess.
Yep.
And can't you get a little device that enables you to do that?
Yep. Pretty much just
Yep.
more or less a smart timer in your switchboard.
Yeah.
When we moved into our house, it had an almost brand new electric hot water service,
Yep.
which we got our electrician to make heat during the day.
Sure.
So it heats on our solar, so
Yep.
it's kind of a battery for us too.
Absolutely, it is. Yep. Just a rudimentary timer. Yeah, it might be a couple $100, which is fairly easy to retrofit. The challenge, if you don't have a large solar system and you do that in winter, if you have 4 days, you're obviously going to pay more to heat your hot water than if you don't. Hence why.
I can then push a button to determine. if it's
Perfect.
going to
Exactly.
do it.
Exactly.
Perfect.
So can that be done?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So the electrician should know about that.
It's literally just a simple relay with a timer, and you can set the times that you want it to come on and off.
Just be careful of your element sizes and these sort of things,
Yeah.
because it depends on, there's a lot of electrics that come with it, but if you've got a 4.8 element in a hot water, your solar's going to struggle to heat it.
Yeah.
It'll make it lukewarm, but it's going to struggle. It depends on the element size, whether you can reduce it, your temperature, whether you can turn your temperature down, depending on what you're doing. A basic way of saving money on electricity is to turn your thermostat down to 60 degrees. Like we've all got it at 75, but you turn it down to 60 degrees, you still can't put your hand on it, you'll save yourself some money. So there's simple things you can do that can also save you money.
There's a product called Catch Power.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They're all very
Just-
heavy on it.
Just can't use that on dual phase. sites?
On multi-phase properties that have the
Multi-phase
challenge.
properties.
I've got it on mine.
Okay.
I'm on a swirl line, I've got dual, two phases.
Yep.
And I've got it on one phase.
Yep.
The struggle you have is you can only have it on one phase because it has to be connected. The blue version has to be connected to the internet on the same phase.
Correct. Yes. Absolutely, it is.
Yeah, there's some other products out there other than cash power that will do the same thing. That has its purpose, but has got its limitations also.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Everything does.
Yep.
What's the maintenance on the lithium? They're a lead acid as well. Do you have to top up
The lithium-ion batteries are completely sealed. No, lithium ion batteries are maintenance free. You don't have
still
to.
got acid in them, haven't they?
No, they don't. Yeah.
In terms of hot water,
Yeah.
if you've got a heat pump, you can always time when you're going
Absolutely,
to
you
heat
can.
your-
Yes, you can run it during the day. It could be an option. You just have to weigh up how old your current hot water system is and whether it's worth the investment of a new hot water service.
You said a bloke ringing me up a few minutes ago trying to sell me, give me a free hot water
Yep.
heat pump. But when I looked it up, it doesn't have that capacity. You can't choose when it
No,
when
it's
it
just
charges.
correct. Yeah, there's good and bad heat pumps out there, and
Yes.
generally with the government scheme, if you can get it for nothing, it might work for a couple of years, and it's worth taking a gamble on, perhaps. But long term, I wouldn't be confident in the product if you're paying nothing for it.
So these
Oh,
are
so the government, sorry, Dave. I was just gonna say, so the government's selling. dodgy
No, the
products.
government's not selling hot waters. There's just a rebate available of $1,000. Sorry, one of the other rebates that's currently available is solar hot water rebate, which is relevant to a heat pump, which is $1,000. But you get that or the solar or the battery. You can't double dip on any of those.
So what, if you've got a moderate sized house.
Yep.
I haven't got solar.
Sure.
And I want a good brand. And reasonable installs, etc. How much is roughly, the ballpark, how much is it going to cost me?
For the hot water or for the?
No, for the
How much? Do you know how many kilowatts you use? Because that comes down to the size. Do you know how much kilowatts you use per day? Would you roughly know? No.
It costs about $800 a quarter.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of electricity in there. So.
there's the tricky thing about solar. There's no perfect size for anyone. It really depends what you're trying to achieve. If you say you want to get rid of the bills, obviously you're going to put a big system on. If you're just happy to find a happy medium between saving 60 or 70%, it might be a 6 or 8 kilowatt system. The price is going to vary pretty vastly between retailers, but a good rule of thumb is somewhere around $1 per watt, roughly, after the rebate. So an 8 kilowatt system, $8,000 after the rebate is probably a good balance between top end products and bottom of the barrel. That probably sits somewhere right in the middle, just as a bit of a guide.
So for something like that, how long before you can, how many years before you pay?
Most residential solar systems will pay themselves off between 4 and 8 years. And when I give that vast range is purely based on how much you can consume during the day.
Yeah.
If you can shift 80% of your habits to during the daytime, it's obviously going to be much shorter payback. And that's what I mean by there's no perfect size of solar. If you have a 3 kilowatt system based on your bills, the impact might only be 10 or 15%, but you're going to recoup those costs in 3 or 4 years. Versus a much larger system, say a 10 kilowatt system that is going to cost you a lot more up front, but it's going to take maybe 6 or 7 years to pay itself back, but the impact on the bill is going to be significantly more.
The size is really going to be dependent on your roof.
Absolutely, that's obviously the limiting factor in a lot of cases. How many we can physically fit? Is there shading from any trees or anywhere we can't go because of a skylight, solar hot water?
If you've got a paddock, we do a ground mount.
But
You can put a panel down.
That's
you can.
expensive.
But that's why all of these things we're talking about in ballparks, and where you really have to get a tailored, personalised quote that's specific to you, because there's so many things that can vary.
So 10 years ago, you would put solar on your house. You'd put as much as you could because you're going to get 66 cents. That's what you did. You just loaded it up as much as you possibly could fit anywhere you could put a panel to make it viable, and it was all about money. It wasn't about energy or anything now. Now it's about every one of you tailoring your own solar system. Forget about what neighbour's done. What's going to suit you and your lifestyle. Some people use a lot of power in the morning, So you'll need an east. You want more east than you want west. Some are home in the afternoons and they don't do nothing in the morning.
Why you do the panel?
You go
Yes.
west. You know, it's not all about true north. It's not all. It's about what's best for you, and that's what everyone needs to take away from this. It's not a goes across everyone like we used to do. It's got to be tailored to your house, whether what you want to achieve, what you don't want to achieve, all those things. So it's a real important. It's a 25-year investment, and that's how you need to look at it. And that's why you need a company that's going to stand by you through that time, monitor, look at things, and those sort of things. So,
just for reference, this is an all north facing array, so you can see in the afternoon around dinner time they're obviously using more power. In summer it'd be ideal to have some west facing panels so that you can increase that curve towards that evening so you can consume more power. In this case it wasn't possible, they're full of trees, so it was all north facing.
Yeah,
but
but you can move that grey area down into that high.
Absolutely, yep. So the orientation will impact this curve. That's just all north in January.
Sorry, what's the battery cost?
Yeah.
Good question. Probably
$3.50 in that album.
yeah, AA, AAA.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's too broad a question I think to answer. Yeah, maybe $1,200 a kilowatt hour if I'm just going to pick a number out of the air to give you some kind of idea. Yeah.
With technology moving so fast
Yep.
and changing so quickly, we see, you've got to have the latest and the greatest. How adaptable are manufacturers making? I know Elon Musk has gone out on his own and he's
Sure.
done his own thing. He said, well, you can only use my chargers if you've got a Tesla and
Yes.
this, that, and that. That at some stage the battle's got to settle down.
Yeah.
And they will start producing a particular battery because that's the optimum kind of battery to have.
Yep.
How adaptable is it going to be for those people who buy their electric car now with their lithium batteries?
Yep.
I mean, are they considering the fact that, things become antediluvian nowadays so quickly
Yeah.
that you're frightened to put your foot in the water
Sure.
because it's going to get bitten off by another shark who comes along.
Yeah.
and,
It's funny that you use Tesla as an example because Tesla Powerwall can be retrofitted to any solar system.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what brand you have because of the nature of AC coupling, which means it's not directly communicating, but it's got some communication between what's coming in and out of the property in terms of power. It can talk to anything. So there is that redundancy, I suppose.
I suppose when I was thinking of Tesla, I was thinking more about cars.
The cars, yeah. Yeah, I guess it's what people are going to buy. That's really what's going to drive the market, and Tesla's really good at marketing, so that's what people are buying at the moment.
But you don't have to put a battery on it.
No.
You can put a battery ready system, put a hybrid inverter. Don't spend a bit more money and don't just get a normal inverter. Get a hybrid inverter. So when things settle, or when you're comfortable, or when you want to dip your toe in, you can go down that path and you can advance and move with the technology. These decisions don't have to be made in 5 minutes. So you can have a long-term plan of where you want to be in the next 10 years and a part of it. Solar panels have advanced so much. I would not be scared to put any solar panel in any roof. The technology is just miles above. Oh,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
But you got to know. That's the thing. You got to know what's available so you can plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get that information?
Engage with a reputable retailer that
Yeah.
can walk you through the process.
So you invite them out to your farm and
Yeah.
I don't want to turn this into a sales thing. So understand that I'm not a salesman. I'm an
Yeah.
electrician. So you have someone that wants to invest in the journey with you, that's going to be around when you're ready. Not someone who wants to just go, yep, I want to sell you a Tesla Powerwall, I want to sell you a 6.6 because it's easy for them. Because that's what they do. People that walk around and sell 6.6 kilowatt systems and Tesla Powerwalls and don't want to listen to the story and don't want to adjust, they're there just for the sale. They won't be around for your journey, I guarantee you. You want someone to come out and see you and individualise what you're trying to do and be personable. And that's what you need. So it doesn't matter whether it's us, but whatever it is that needs to be
So
sold and wants to
that's one
invest
of the
in their
reasons
job.
why we brought in the Dindy bulk buy scheme.
Yep.
Was to actually take a lot of that
Yeah.
guesswork
The
out
noise away.
and all the noise out. But
Yeah.
what was really interesting was that how many the charlatans in the solar
Oh, yeah.
industry were actually coming up at the same time that we were actually implementing it.
Yeah, without a doubt.
But it took a lot of the guesswork out for a
Yep.
lot, like you, so it was good. But then Victorian government brought in their new rebates and it was like,
Yeah, start again.
yeah.
Some years ago, inverters had a life expectancy of like 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Is that still the case, or are they?
We would expect 15 to 20 years out of most inverters. Obviously, Sungrow is one of the brands that will warrant their inverters for 25.
The one that comes out of Austria.
Fronius?
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Yep.
one.
They come with a 10-year warranty, but again, you can pay to extend that warranty to 15 or 20 years if you would like to. So they're confident the product will last. You're just paying for the warranty period. Basically, I'd refer to it like a warranty on a car. After 3 years, the wheels don't fall off. It keeps on producing. Yeah. Awesome.